Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts, in the shadow of the Great Blue Hills. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in that mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Player FM, Boomplay, Ghana, wherever you find your favorite shows. This, I think, will be one of your favorite episodes of Reading with Your Kids. Two wonderful guests will be joining us. Annie Wyatt will be joining us to celebrate her new book. It's called A Horse in the Castle. And later in the show, we'll be meeting Chris Strassel. She's celebrating Courageous Clooney. Before we invite our guests into the studio, we want to let you know we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read, Have You Seen My Sock? Written by Barbara Thompson. This is a delightful seek and find rhyming children's book that takes readers aged 3 to 7 on a whimsical adventure. With enchanting illustrations by Ramesh Ram, this book captures the essence of childhood curiosity and the joy of a small but captivating quest. The story kicks off with young Mason asking his mom about his missing dinosaur sock, setting the stage for a series of charming encounters with various animals and characters. Each new page brings a fresh friend Mason seeks help from, including the family cat climbing the loud, chiming clock, a dog with a long, curly locks, and a busy duck headed for the dock. The unique responses from each character adds layers of fun and anticipation, keeping readers engaged as they follow Mason's search. Thompson's rhythmic writing is both engaging and easy to read, making it perfect for young kids. The repetitive nature of Mason's query, "Have you seen my sock?" paired with the playful responses from each character, creates a fun read-aloud experience. The illustrations complement the text beautifully, with vibrant and detailed artwork that captures the playful spirit of the story, ensuring young readers will remain visually engaged. As Mason methodically rules out potential hiding spots for a sock, the suspense and the excitement build. The repetitive structure of the narrative helps reinforce memory and prediction skills in young readers who will eagerly guess the sock's next potential hiding place. The story's resolution is both satisfying and heartwarming. Mason's dad steps in to help, leading to the discovery of the sock hidden among Mason's scattered blocks. The moment of teamwork and tidying up underscores a gentle lesson about responsibility and the importance of cleaning up after playtime. Adding an extra layer of engagement, the book includes an interactive element at the end, inviting kids to find Mason's sock in a picture. This feature makes the story even more participatory and enjoyable for young readers. We absolutely love this book. Congratulations to Barbara Thompson. Have You Seen My Sock is our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. This episode is brought to you by Daphne Draws Data. From the imaginative mind of best-selling author Cole Nussbaumer Knaflick and the vibrant illustrations of John Skewers comes a story that will captivate kids and grown-ups alike. Daphne is not your ordinary dragon. She doesn't breathe fire. She breathes life into numbers, turning them into pictures that solve mysteries, forge friendships, and save the day. Daphne's journey celebrates unique talents, the power of teamwork, and the beauty of seeing the world through a different lens. This dragon's tale is perfect for parents and educators to inspire the next generation of curious minds and innovative thinkers. Get your copy today. Daphne Draws Data. One last item before we bring our guest into the studio. I just want to give a big thank you to Yobi Q and Jay Moletsky. I had a wonderful time with my beautiful wife at the 4th annual Indie Author Summit that Joby and Jay put together out in Kansas City. What a wonderful time. I got a chance to present to the authors, letting them know a little bit about how they can use the power of podcasting to promote and celebrate their books. Had so much fun, met so many great people, and had some amazing barbecue out there in Kansas City. Big hats off to Jay and Yobi. The Author Summit is amazing. If you don't know about it, be sure to check out Jay's page. You want to be there next year. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called A Horse in the Castle. Please welcome to the show, Annie Wyatt. Hey, Annie, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm delighted. It's a rainy day here in Boston, but I am welcoming it because it has broken the heat wave that has gripped most of the Northeast for the past couple of weeks.
I agree. I'm a big fan of the rain, actually. I think it kind of gives the earth a shower. So I welcome the rain. I think it's refreshing.
I like that. Yet, the first time I heard someone make a reference to the rain being like a shower, I was in Los Angeles. And we had just landed, and we're getting in our Uber, and a big rainstorm had just let up, and everybody was so excited. And the Uber driver, and I said, "Why are you guys so excited about the rain? Do you have a drought or something?" He said, "No, we're excited because tomorrow the air is going to be so clean." And
yeah.
I think, wow.
I think it started, I was in New York for about 10 years. So I studied at Parsons. That's probably what inspired me to do the illustrations of this book. But as a New Yorker, when it rains, you love it. The sidewalks are clear. All the tourists are scrambling inside. It's very peaceful, actually. So I fell in love with the rain at an early age.
Maybe we'll see a rain-inspired book from you in the future.
I love it. Rain on the Castle.
Rain on the Castle. Yeah. So this is kind of like, this is part of a series of castle-inspired books.
It is, yes. My first children's book came out about 2 years ago, and it is called All Kinds of Castles.
Cool. And so why don't we just start there? Tell us what All Kinds of Castles was and who inspired it and how this series got off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. My oldest son definitely inspired the book. We would go to the car wash and he would say, "Mom, we're going to the car castle," or we would get gas and he'd be like, "We're going to the gas castle." It was so magical. Everything was a castle to him. So All Kinds of Castles is about a little boy that lives in the city and he thinks he lives in a castle just because there's these big old, towers and buildings everywhere. But then he ventures out to the country and he sees that a horse who lives in a barn, well, that barn is the castle, and the turtle shell is a castle. And the moral of that story is that a castle is wherever you call home. But I really, really fell in love with the horse character. So my second book, now A Horse in the Castle, is just based on a horse that lives in a barn, but she thinks she's a queen and lives in the castle. And it's just all about educating children about a typical day in the life of a horse.
Very cool. Very cool. And I guess kids don't think about what horses are doing in their lives other than getting rode on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I personally didn't really grow up around too many horses. I grew up on the North Shore of Boston. So there's horses there, but it just wasn't part of my daily life. And moving to the Carolinas, there's definitely a horse country down here. And there's a charity that is local here called Mighty Riders. And it helps children that have physical or mental disabilities get on horses. And my husband and I, we started to visit the property. We fell in love with the owners, Harry and Marilyn Swimmer. And I just really started to understand how healing and magical the horse is. I was always pretty intimidated by them, but I learned all about tacking them up, as they say. So it's kind of grooming them to prepare them to ride. And I just thought it'd be really magical for children to learn more about these animals.
A horse is such a magnificent creature when you think about it. It's so beautiful to watch them run. And and they're really ginormous creatures when you think about it. And, but they're so, for the most part, so gentle and friendly. And, I think they're like probably the first big animal a kid can safely approach.
Absolutely. I think the first thing I learned about horses are how intuitive they are, that they can really sense humans and how a human feels. And when I was so timid at the beginning of I didn't know where to touch a horse. Do you touch its shoulder, its little nose? Where do you touch? And so as I started to learn about these animals, I could tell the horse was almost more confident around me and started to show really gentle signs and love towards me. And I have a very fond memory of bringing my husband and my 2 young boys to the farm. And the horse that I was riding, this magical white horse named Pearl, she saw me and she started to kind of gallop around. And you could just tell that she knew I was welcoming her. And I'm like, wow, these animals are just so special. And the opening of the book, the dedication, speaks to the person that is reading the book and recognizes the personalities of the animals that they approach, and how the children that we're reading to have personalities of their own as well. And I love that message, because it's true. Everyone has a personality, and you have to lean into it and welcome it and learn all about them.
Yeah. The therapeutic writing is something that I became aware of, close to 40 years ago. I was working in a school for kids with severe developmental disabilities. And that was one of the, unfortunately, we didn't have the budget to take the kids to therapeutic writing, but there were a couple of families who had the resources, and it made such a difference in the lives of those kids. It really helped them enjoy life to a huge extent.
Absolutely. And so one of the beauties of Mighty Riders is it is a free program. It's application based, because I think there is a stigma that horseback riding is expensive, because horses are expensive. They're large animals and you have to upkeep them. So programs like Mighty Riders that are affordable for families to get their children on, it's so amazing. I wish more programs around the world would be affordable like that, or donation based. So anyone out there, please donate to these type of organizations. It's important. But to see a child in a wheelchair be wheeled up a ramp and then get on a 1,000-pound plus animal, and I'm going to choke up saying it, but just have a different view of the world. They're no longer 2, 3, 4 feet off the ground. They are now 6 or 7 feet off the ground. That is life-changing for a child. And then to feel that animal breathing underneath them, it's so important and so magical. So.
And I'm imagining being on the horse and feeling the horse walk, and almost to the point, it almost gives them the sense that, wow, I'm walking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's extremely healing. So I'm hoping with this book, for just like we were talking about, children that might not be able to see a horse, they can learn a little bit more about it. It is written in rhyming verse, which I think is very important. I have 2 small boys. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And my 4-year-old is starting to read, and I'm really learning how much rhyming is influential on a child learning the written word, and how it helps them pronounce words, learn words, even spell words as well. So that was one of the other attributes of the book I'm really proud of.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but it was possibly the dumbest thing that I ever did in my life. Thankfully, I didn't suffer any consequences except getting a tongue lashing. I had a friend who was an equestrian.
Yeah.
And so I went to one of her events, and it was just a different world. And I'm backstage, I guess that's how you refer to it, where all the tents are and the temporary stables are. And a horse broke free and started running through the stable area. And I saw it, and I thought, I'll help out. So I stood in front of that horse as it was charging down the stalls. And thankfully,
open arms. Come here, pony.
Like this. And my friend said, "What are you thinking about? That horse is 1,000 pounds would squash you." And I wasn't the hero I thought I was going to be.
But hey, you tried, you didn't know, hey, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The horse didn't know you were intimidated, they were excited to see you. Beautiful thing.
Indeed. Indeed. I'm curious how, as you're reading with your son and you're hearing your son, start to read, and you know that the style that you wrote this book is helping him to read. Do you ever take the time to think about the fact that, hey, this is really cool. I'm having a lot of fun reading my book with my son, and I'm really happy that it's helping him learn. And I did this for a bunch of other families too.
Yeah. It means a lot to me. It is my greatest joy in life. I wish I could afford to have this be my full-time passion. And hopefully one day these books will be successful enough that I can continue to write more books. But there's been a few moments in the process of becoming a published author that have really kept me motivated and inspired me. I think one of them was with my first book. I was involved in a program called Love Smiles, where I did a video recording of myself reading the book. And it actually became available to children inside hospitals that were, I believe it was cancer driven. I'm not sure. I don't think it stopped there, but children and parents inside hospitals could open up this application. I think it's a web-based application, and actually at night or during the day, nap time, whatever it was, pull it up and have the author read their book to a child. And that just inspired me so much to know that putting myself as a parent in those parents' shoes to give that child 5 or 10 minutes of relief, where the parent could probably take a breath of fresh air and say, okay, someone else is entertaining my child in a very safe environment. And I was able to entertain that child for a few moments. That really changed my life and has kept me inspired to keep pursuing this profession of being a children's book author. Another one of my happiest memories was I was at a local farm here in Charlotte called Hunter Farm. We love the owners of this farm. It's a really do-good, feel-good farm. And it was a Friday night, and there was bonfires, and I was reading to the children. And a child I didn't know in the audience started to shout out the end of the sentences. They were guessing how the sentence would end because of the rhyming verse. And it just had me in splinters cracking up, because the child was not only following along, but anticipating where the story would go. And this is a 3 or 4-year-old child. And it really inspired me and blew me away. And I had the privilege of growing up with a mother who was a 5th grade school teacher all along the North Shore. And I just know how important education is to children. So I feel like I'm kind of carrying on in her legacy, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. That rhyming, it is it's such a valuable style of writing, especially, as you said, for younger kids. The kids do anticipate it. It helps them gain that confidence that I'm reading. I think it connects with a different part of our brain. We've heard stories of people, and it was happened with my mom when she started failing with dementia, and parts of her brain were not working. The part that dug music was still there, because she would remember songs from her teenage years and would remember all the different words. So I think it's really fascinating. How did you learn how to because rhyming, a good rhyming picture book, of course, not only rhymes, but it has the meter. And, that was that a difficult skill for you to develop?
Absolutely. And my favorite critic is my mom. She called me as a teacher, and she was 5th grade math, but she also did literature. And she called me and she goes, "Annie, your meter's off." And on a couple of these pages. And I was like, "Mom, come on." She's like, "No, you don't know about this." It's like, I do, but she really guided me through that process to help me really perfect I like to think everything in the book. I'm really proud of it. It's always a little scary putting your art out there, whether as an author or illustrator. In this case, I've done both. But I think it works. I hope no one calls and says, "Annie, page 19, that meter's really off." I don't know what you were thinking, but so here we go.
I'm sure the team of editors that helped bring the book to life went over that meter with a fine-tooth comb.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I trust him.
You, in your notes to me, I saw that you are in the corporate marketing world. Are there any parallels between the work that you're doing in that world and children's book writing?
Absolutely. I think children's book writing and publishing a children's books is hands down one of the most saturated markets you can get into. And I think today there's 3 types of publishing. You can self-publish, you can hybrid publish, which I have done with Archway Publishing through Simon & Schuster, or you can actually have an agent and be picked up to fully publish. As a children's book author, it is near impossible to have an agent and be picked up in that regard. Some statistics. There are platforms where you can go in and review books. And I'm on these because I love reviewing books. I'm an avid reader personally as well. And you can see that every month, maybe 12 to 20 books come out in the romance genre or in the historical fiction genre that are gaining traction. Whereas children's books, you're going to see 40 to 50 books come out. So it's really tough. So to go back to your question, being a professional marketer, I've been in the space of marketing for 15 or 16 years. I think the only way that I saw success with my first book was because I ran pretty aggressive marketing with it. I know those marketing tactics, whether it's from social media or advertising or email marketing or working with influencers, whatever it might be. I think I was a double-edged sword where I was able to write it and run the illustrations, but also market it. And I'm really empathetic towards the really talented children's book author and illustrators out there that don't have that marketing support, because if a tree falls in the forest, who's going to hear it? So you have to have that marketing engine behind it. So I've probably spent 10 or 12 times, more time investment of marketing the book than actually writing and editing and drawing it. But that's the world that we're in. Yeah.
One of the things that we've said many times, when you write a children's book, whether it's hybrid or indie, and even traditionally published to a certain extent, you're starting a small business. Mm-hmm. And you have to have the mindset that you're now the CEO of this business that you're creating. Otherwise, your book is going to sit on a shelf, or 5,000 books will be sitting in your basement for years.
Yeah. And I just think you really have to persevere and stay confident. I've gotten bad reviews about my book, not yet this new book, because it's so fresh off the print. And I've gotten wonderful reviews about my book, but I really believe in the story. I believe in the message sharing. And I think it's that old school saying, but it just takes the right person to pick it up and give it attention. And that's what creates a viral attraction. And I'm just going to, stay persistent and keep sharing the message. And as we talked about earlier, it just gives me such joy. It really does. I love doing book signings. I love meeting children. Highlight of my day, aside from being with my family and all that, is when my friends send me photos late at night of their children reading my books. It's just, the butterflies on my heart. It's beautiful.
That's wonderful. That really is wonderful. Going back to, you were telling us about your first book and the start of the series, the idea that, wherever you live is a castle. I think that's a great message to share with kids, to help them appreciate what it is they have, and hopefully give them the sense that this is mine. I'm going to take ownership of it, and I'm really going to care for it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's beautiful that you recognize that. And I think the other message inside the book as well is that we all live in different types of homes. There's no perfect castle. No one's castle is better than the other. It's just your home, your castle is wherever your loved ones are. And so that can be with family, that can be with friends. Your castle could be your school with your teacher. It could be anywhere you find joy and love and happiness. And that's all that it matters.
I love that. I sense in some ways that these children's books are becoming one of your castles.
Totally. Absolutely. I love them. They're a happy place for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. Well, I would be a very bad podcast host if I didn't ask you to tell us where we could go to find out more about a horse in the castle, and more about you.
Absolutely. So I do have an Instagram, Annie M. Wyatt. You can find my books on the large online publishers, so think Barnes & Noble, etc. But I would always, always, always encourage you to please call your local bookstore, support independent bookstores. So here in Charlotte, you can support Park Road Books. They carry both of my books. But I'm inside a couple hundred bookstores here in the United States. So please do call and support local, and hopefully you can find the books there. And if not, they can always order it online at Ingram and get it for you.
And another great way to help out not only Annie, but also other families in your community, go down to your library and ask if they can bring it to their collection.
Yes, Jed, absolutely.
We've had a great time speaking to the author and illustrator of A Horse in the Castle. Our guest has been Annie Wyatt. Annie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Jed. Pleasure meeting you.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Hey, are you ready to ignite a passion for reading in your students? Introducing bookandauthor.com, your gateway to literacy connections. With bookandauthor.com, connecting your school with talented authors of captivating kids' books has never been easier. Simply visit our user-friendly website and explore our extensive database of authors. Filter your search based on budget, genre, and availability. Discover the perfect match for your school and your students. But that's not all. With bookandauthor.com, you have the power to request a proposal. Let vetted authors come to you with their tailored ideas, ensuring an unforgettable literacy experience for your students. Don't wait any longer to inspire young minds through the magic of books. Visit bookandauthor.com today and open the door to a world of literacy connections. Bookandauthor.com, where literacy comes to life. Hey there, families! Are you looking for an exciting way to bond and learn together? Look no further than our STEM is Family Fun video series. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of STEM through hands-on activities right in your own home. Our series features lessons from experts at renowned institutions like the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, the National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C., and Children's Museum Houston. From making homemade rainbow bridges to creating an oboe out of a straw, there's something for everyone in the family to enjoy. So grab your lab coats and get ready for an adventure. Go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the STEM is Family Fun link at the top of the page and let the learning and laughter begin. STEM is Family Fun, where learning and bonding go hand in hand. Join us right now from the great state of Delaware. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Courageous Clooney. Please welcome to the show, Chris Strassel. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me and excited to talk about my first picture book.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. And I understand that Clooney is in the room with you. How's Clooney doing?
Clooney's fine. He's a little confused because he hears voices, but he doesn't see people, but he's enjoying the air conditioner.
Well, good for him. Good for him. Tell us about Clooney and what makes him so courageous.
Clooney is a 2021 Hurricane Ida rescue that was flown up here from Summit, Mississippi by Wings of Rescue to Brandywine Valley SPCA. He was heartworm positive when I adopted him, and I knew very little about that. And to pay our good fortune, now that he's gone through his heartworm treatment, I've learned a lot about it and kind of wrote this picture book to find a way to give back and hopefully prevent more dogs from having to go through this long, arduous, scary treatment for this disease.
So a heartworm, I know I give my Augie, the wonder dog here, his heartworm whenever we're supposed to give it to him. Talk a little bit about what this disease is all about and what it does to dogs.
Well, if you give them the preventative medicine, there's like a 99% chance they're not going to get it. Unfortunately, it's rather expensive. And also, unfortunately, not everybody takes their dogs for regular vet visits. So I got thinking, I'm what I consider a responsible pet owner. And my theory was you just give him the pill every month and it's not a big deal and you go on from there. And after adopting him, he was 2 when I adopted him, and he had heartworm when he was surrendered to the shelter. So he had lived with it for a couple months. And I felt that I couldn't be the only one that's a responsible pet owner. It's a little more involved than that. The mosquito bites them, and instantaneously the heartworms start growing. You have to be on antibiotics for a month. Again, treatments are different because it depends on how severe and how long they've had the disease. Basically, the mosquito bites them. It's usually it's a female mosquito. Automatically get them, and they start growing and replicating in the heart. The scary thing was the treatment. It's now treatable. Years ago, it wasn't. It was pretty much a death sentence. Now it's treatment, but you go through antibiotics, but they can't get excited after when you're going through the treatments, because when they start dying off, they're very small, and since they're called heartworms, they end up launching in the heart and the lungs. So when they're dying off, you can't get them excited. You can't increase their respiration. You can't increase their heart rate because it's possibility of a stroke, and you can kill them.
So no zoomies.
I'm sorry?
So no zoomies.
No zoomies, no excited. You have to do everything you can. I mean, luckily, and to be honest with you, once they start the treatment, they don't really feel like doing a whole lot. It's a little scary. I had no clue what I was getting into, but when I saw this face, it was like they told me he's heartworm positive. I'm like, what's that mean? He has to get 2 injections and that's it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's a little more involved than that. So my thought process was, I'm a responsible pet owner. If I'm thinking heartworms aren't that big of a deal, you just give them a pill every month, there's got to be other people out there that don't realize the risk they're putting their animals in by not giving them treatment, by not having regular medical care. And I thought, what a better way than do it if I can explain it to a small child through a picture book, then possibly grown-ups will figure it out.
I think that's a good strategy.
Well, I feel simplicity is the easiest. And then because of Clooney had kind of a rough beginning, he just inspires me because he's very shy and there's no nice way. He's very flaky. There's some things that won't bother him and other things will terrorize him. So we work on that. He didn't like go for car rides, and thanks to Starbucks, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that or not, but thanks to Starbucks Pup Cups, now he loves going for car rides because he knows it's always going to end with that. So I wanted to make this simple. I wanted to make it fun so kids would see his gorgeous face and be like, oh, let me see about this dog. But I didn't want to make them afraid of going to the vet. I didn't want them to be afraid of getting needles, even though they're not fun. But the needles for this particular disease are very painful. And I wanted to kind of stress that point, that this isn't, if you see the heartworm commercials on TV, they're like, oh, and the dogs are playing and everything's fine. Well, yeah, kind of, but maybe scare people a little bit and realize the danger by not giving them this pill. So I came up with the concept, and then I decided we're taking half the profits, and I'm going to work with the veterinarian office and shelters. We're taking half the profits to provide for people that need to have the preventative treatment for their pets, whether they can't afford it or their dog's sick. I haven't worked out all the details for that. I'm still working with the local shelters and vets offices to try to see the best way we can make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It was challenging to write. Most people are like, oh, you're writing a children's book. What's it about? And heartworm usually leaves them with a befuddled expression on their face until I explain to you. Like I said, if I make it simple enough for kids to do it and it's fun and it's kind of a preventative tale, then maybe I can spread the word that you need to take your dog to the vet. They need to have this. It's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to give them a pill every month than to have them go through this and possibly kill them if you don't do it properly or you don't get them treatment and shorten their lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I wrote the book, I had my vet and vet tech look it over to make sure, did I cover everything? I had elementary school teachers to look at it for different reasons. Are kids going to relate to this? Is it good enough? Because I want it to be fun, because if it's not fun, kids aren't going to want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't do what we're trying to do. And that's just to raise awareness.
Well, I think that's a really noble reason to create a book. Pets have been such a wonderful part of my life, of my family's life. But being a pet owner, it takes a lot of responsibility. And I think that this is one way to kind of have those conversations with kids. Kids love dogs. They love cats. They love having pets in their lives. But I think it's important for them to understand that this is not a toy. It's a living being that needs love and attention, and it takes a lot of work.
Exactly. And responsibility. And I think that's one of the first things, because I always had a dog growing up, but I think that's, looking back on it, I think that's one of the first things. Like, I love them, but I also realized it wasn't just something fun. It was a responsibility. You had to feed them every day. Mm-hmm. You had to clean up after them. You had to make arrangements if you were going somewhere for long periods of time to take care of them. And I've instilled that. I'm a huge animal lover, so all my friends know in rescue, but they even then were kind of looking like, really, a book about heartworm? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to make it fun, and I'm going to make it so it's a little scary, but there's a plot twist to it. And everything works out in the end, and everybody's fine. So I said, I'm hoping I can get hooked up with a couple drug reps that make heartworm medicine to see if they can help. What do you think's the best way? Maybe we need to change advertisements versus having dogs frolic in the sun and act like give them a pill and everything's going to be all right. Maybe they need to know that there's going to be danger of heartworm and make the heartworm or any of the worms or whatever it is look a little more scary. So people kind of get it and not say, oh, well, they'll be fine or whatever. And then, because actually my vet tech told me she had just went to a heartworm symposium. The vet that was giving the lecture, his dog was like Clooney, had heartworm when he was about 2, but he was very infested with it. The dog lived till he was 15, but being a vet, he did an autopsy on him, and he still found dead heartworms in his body. That's how long they can last. And that's why, Clooney couldn't just go running outside. You had to walk him. I had to make sure there were no squirrels or cats or things in the yard because I was probably being overzealous on making sure he didn't. But it could just take one thing, breaking off, and it could kill him or give him a stroke. Or Clooney, don't eat that. So he's a fun pup. He had a really rough start in life. He is spoiled rotten now, as he should be, and he just inspires me every day to accomplish different things and look at things that he's gone through. So I'm hoping maybe this might be a series, because he didn't want to get in the car when I first got him. I had to pick him up, put him in the car. That looking back, probably the first time he was ever in a car was when he was owner surrendered to the shelter. Mm-hmm. Then he was sent up here. Then he was neutered. Then 1 or 2 trips, and that might have been cool. And then he got his heartworm medicine. So car rides weren't exactly a positive thing for him. Mm-hmm. Other loud noises and stuff. So I learned with him, if you just, like with kids, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. And tell him he's a good boy. his whole demeanor changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, it's taken the simplicity, and to me, dogs, not just dogs, cats too, animals and kids kind of on the same wavelength. Because most dogs have a mentality of a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
If I can make a toddler figure it out, and I can encourage a dog to do something he's terrified of, with sometimes good reason, like kids are terrified of shots or thunderstorms or whatever. If you can let them see it's okay, then you've accomplished it with positive reinforcement. Then that's what I want to do. And in turn, give back.
Well, I love that idea of giving back. I love talking to our kids about being responsible. I think too that it's could be a really great way to start talking about rescuing dogs and helping kids be aware of the fact that there are thousands and thousands of dogs around the world that don't have homes. And that could really use homes.
Actually, it's odd that you say that, because Clooney flew up here with Wings of Rescue organization, which takes volunteer pilots and their planes and flies dogs from at-risk shelters, like from the Bahamas to Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
In Clooney's case, it was Hurricane Ida. It wasn't even a shelter they normally fly from. But because of where the hurricane hit, they had to change it from Louisiana to Mississippi. I was fortunate. He had been in the shelter for 5 months. They chose him to come up here. And as soon as I saw the picture, that was it. He was mine. But Wings of Rescue, Chihuahuas might be more popular in, say, LA than they are in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a lot of Chihuahuas over here. So they'll fly them. They have a better chance of doing that. So you've expanded that. And that's also, like, I started Clooney's coats, which is I crochet. So I use donated yarn, either when I have leftover, to give back, to promote awareness for dogs for different shelters. I've sent them to California. I've sent them to New Mexico, and then in the tri-state area that we live in. So everything connected with this book and with Clooney is always given back to raise awareness, like you said, for shelter dogs. And now it's even more so. Heartworm is more prevalent because you're taking dogs from the South who have mosquitoes 24/7, 365 days a year, to places in Nova Scotia. They might not think about it, but now all of a sudden you're living in Wisconsin or Nova Scotia. You've got a dog from the Bahamas that has heartworm.
Mm.
That you've probably not been exposed to it and
Mm-hmm.
don't have anything to know about it. And trust me, when you start doing internet research, you're going to get the creepy crawlies, because it's kind of just that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a risk that the heartworms could affect humans?
No.
Good.
Not to my knowledge now.
Good. That's really good. Where did you get the idea that, I understand the love, wanting to give back, but becoming an author of a children's book, that's a little bit out there. That's not something, it's not a challenge that every person is willing to take on. What part of you gave you the kind of daring to take that challenge on?
Well, it wasn't on the bucket list, I can tell you that, because I had somebody say, well, if the book doesn't do any good, then at least you can say you wrote a children's book. Yeah, but I don't want to just write a children's book. I want to write a successful children's book that makes a difference. I couldn't, to be honest with you, it just came out of nowhere. I was just thinking one day when, we had completed treatment, and was just thinking about, I think I'm a responsible pet owner, and I think I know what I'm doing. And then I got this, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on. This was nerve-wracking and scared to death and time-consuming. And I just felt I couldn't be the only one, and I wanted to do something. And I had already started Clooney's Coat, so I was already doing something to give back from him, because he just inspires me to give back. Mm-hmm. All my dogs have. My first dog was a therapy dog. My second dog was just a very social dog that I had to take everywhere, and everybody pretty much in a 45-mile radius of me knew who she was. When she passed right before Clooney, it was a lot of people were missing her. He inspired me to give back, and I just got thinking, and I kind of like to break down things in simplistic points of view, because I just think it's easier for overall, if you can get the basics, then you can build on that. And I was like, well, maybe I should do a children's book about heartworm. And my friends are used to me thinking outside the box. So they were like, okay, here she goes. And it just popped in my head, and then things just started rolling along where I came across Brooke, and from actually a pilot that wrote a book about her travels for Wings of Rescue as far as transporting dogs in planes from different areas of the country, and how they impacted her and how they've impacted the dogs. And I was just like, well, I could do that about heartworm. And it just kind of took off from there. And then I took every free resource available I could find on how to write a children's book, what you need to know, what you need to do, how you can do it, and all the options, and came across Brooke at Biblio Kid, and it just took off from there. And I just said, I'm going to do it, and no, I can't afford it, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay for it, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'll be honest with you, 15 minutes after I decided after I wrote the book and just had to figure out how to publish, American Express sent me a 0% offer for about what I needed for the time period I needed. And I'm like, okay, this was just meant to be.
I was going to say that it's a message from heaven, or American Express.
It was, like I said, within 15 minutes, they were like, how are you going to pay for it? I don't know, but I'm just going to do it. Why? I don't know. I'm not telling my financial advisor, because I'm too close to retirement. He's going to have a heart attack if I tell him what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. And then that came up, and I'm like, all right, it was just meant to be. Everything on this book, when I've doubted, like, do I really want it? No, I want to do, I feel I have to be, I'm compelled to do this. I don't know why. The bigger thing, when I took it to the vet's office, they actually had another marketing thing that I wasn't thinking about. She's offering to sell it in their office, which was one of the things, because, kids sitting in vet's office, they got a book, you can read something. Mm-hmm. They're going to donate, for every book they sell, they're going to donate a heartworm preventative to somebody that needs it.
Oh, great.
So it's already starting to, and I had somebody that wanted to give me a rather large donation to help offset the cost to have the book published. And I said, no, why don't you do this? Why don't you take the $500 that you want to give me? Because I just can't do that, because this is mine. But why don't you do that and buy $500 worth of books and donate them, and then we'll do a press release. Local business helps local author raise awareness. Mm-hmm. So I said, and then you'll be paying it forward, because you're helping me, because you'll help book sales. You can do it as a tax deduction. I'll get the exposure. We'll both get the exposure in the local paper. I told a friend of mine who's going to buy it for her son's kids, and she's in the hometown that I grew up in. So we're going to do a press release, and she's going to do it through her business and buy probably $100 worth of books. So I've already got some sold.
Excellent. Excellent. How does that feel now that this dream is starting to come through?
Well, it's at the illustrators right now, and I wasn't sure on the first two illustrations, but when she got the third one and nailed it, little choked up, proud, excited, still have no idea what I'm doing. When Brooke sent me told me they wanted some of their authors to do your show, she said, check it out. I checked out your show, was very impressed. Like I said, I know very little about podcasts. I've already learned a lot and found some new authors through your social media pages and one or two of your podcasts. So it's just been great. When I sent you the thing and heard back, they're like, you're doing a podcast. Do you know what you're doing? Nope. Do you have a script? Nope. What are you going to do? I don't know. Talking about Clooney in this book, he'll be like, all right, we're out of time. You have to shut up now.
Well, we're not going to ask you to stop speaking. I never ask you to shut up, but we're not going to ask you to stop speaking until you tell us where we can go to find out a little bit more about the book, maybe where to go to.
Well, unfortunately, I'm a little quick on the draw. The book is at the illustrators right now. It's not due to be published till March of 2025.
Okay.
It will be on Amazon. It will be in Barnes & Noble. Yes, Clooney. If you want to find out more about giving back, I do have hashtag Clooney's Coats on Instagram, which is, I take donated yarn. I'm basically cleaning out people's closets. I don't know if you're familiar with any yarn crafters, but most of the time they have half a skein here, half this color there, not enough to throw away, too much to keep. Like any crafter has extra stuff, whether you're a painter or whatever. I clean out people's closets. They give me their extra yarn. I turn them into dog sweaters and send them forward.
That's wonderful.
The book is coming out in March of 2025. Heartworm Awareness Month is May, so I will probably have a big launch right before that. I hope possibly to get on you again to promote it, or if we can re-air this. I'm not sure how all this works. As it gets closer to publication.
We certainly can have you back on. In the meantime, do you have an account on Instagram people can check out and connect with you on?
Clooney's Coats on Instagram.
Excellent. At Clooney's Coats on Instagram.
Yes.
Excellent.
That's pretty much it for right now. Like I said, I'm probably ahead of the game. I really didn't expect to either hear back from you this quick and this quick. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just do a promo and people can look out. I haven't done any public launches yet because, like I said, it's still with the illustrator, and then I'll be doing I work at a printing company, so I'm blessed that I have the tools that I can do the layout and everything. But tentatively, I've been told it's March of 2025. If we could do earlier, that would be great. But either way, it's not going to be this year.
I think that we are going to be building up a little bit of anticipation. March 2025 is not that far away. And in the meantime, we can get lots of yarn donated and make lots of coats for dogs all across the country. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Courageous Clooney. It's the debut picture book from our guest, Chris Strassel. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me and listening and let me go on and on and on about this project because, as you can tell, it is something that is very close to my heart.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids so much. You're going to want to join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Hey, if you are a new listener to Reading with Your Kids and you want to check out some of our past interviews, we have over 2,000 interviews with amazing guests like LeVar Burton, Katie Camello, Danica McKellar, Mark Brown, Dr. Sylvia Earle, one of the most respected oceanographers in the world. So many wonderful guests. Go to readingwithyourkids.com. There's a player at our homepage. There's also a link that will take you right over to every episode of the show. You should be able to find every episode on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to, but on our website, there's a great little search tool when you get over to the podcast page. So check that out. That's at our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram and TikTok, at Jedley Magic on X. We have a great YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. Authors, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com to find out how you can be a guest here on the show. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people all about your great children's book. And it doesn't cost you. Check it out today, readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we're going to start by thanking our guest, Andy Wyatt. Please be sure to check out A Horse in the Castle. Chris Strassel. Please be sure to check out Courageous Clooney. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Judy Hu, Stella Sheree, Hannibal Sanj, Alyssa Montiero, Devin Hill, Riley Oluwu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.